Alright kids, Zircool here. I promised you a video on DuraCoating, so here we're going to get started. As many of you know, I'm starting a custom rifle build for Mrs. Z. She doesn't know all the details on it yet, and part of that is going to be a lot of the trim pieces are DuraCoated as well as the rifle itself. So here's the little pieces that are going to get a special coloration. On the bottom left here, we've got the Battle Arms Development Ambi Safety Selector, the Badass. We've got a set of KNS anti-rotate pins, a trigger, mag catch, mag release, the takedown and pivot pins, and the bolt release, all from a standard lowered parts kit. So the first thing we're going to do is put them all in a pan and degrease them. Alright, we're outside now, which is a good spot to do the degreasing. I'm using just a can of CRC Brake Clean. You can pick it up at most any auto parts store. Napa has it for like $3 or $4, or the fancy places want $6 for it. All my parts here are in a little metal disposable pan. These things are about $1 for 5. Get them, use them, throw them away. All the parts are in there. You'll also see the screws that I didn't have before because they were going to roll away from me. So all we're going to do is grab the can and spray a good shot of degreaser in there. Now Lauer says you can use pretty much any degreaser as long as it is residue free. That's the key, because DuraCoat's not going to stick if you've got any residue. So we got a good coat in there. We're going to swirl everything around. And we got a shop towel here next to it that we're going to use to drain these off. I'm working in my fire pit, as you can probably see. I'm not too worried about a little brake cleaner getting spilled here, but definitely don't want to do this inside. Alright, so now we're looking at my little garage-engineered spray booth, hat tipped or double trouble for the term. As you can see in the back there, I've just got a bathroom vent fan. I just need to staple a new filter over it for this project. A few fluorescent lights, I rattle can the inside white, and we're good to go. Alright, one of the things I didn't mention is that after you've degreased these parts, you can't touch them with your bare hands. So it's time to glove up. That should sound very familiar to you, Weird. Now these are just generic food service prep gloves made of latex. You pick them up at any restaurant supply store, but from now on, no hands on the parts. I'm stealing some of my wife's straight pins. Please don't tell her. And what we're going to do is just take each part and pin it to the board somehow. So we'll just start with the trigger. Pop the pin in there. And since that's a little heavier, we're going to put a second one in to hold it up a little bit better. And we're just going to go right through, and we're going to do this with all the parts. Alright, as you can see, we are just about ready to start airbrushing here. I've got my airbrush hooked up to a compressor. Nothing fancy there, just a little DeWalt trim compressor. I set the compressor's regulator to about 50 psi, and then I have a secondary one at the airbrush that I go for a working pressure, that is with the air flowing of right around 20 psi. That seems to work pretty well with DuraCoat. You can see right there, it's just about on 20 psi, so we're in good shape. Next step, we've got to mix the DuraCoat. Now they recommend you shake it for about 3 to 5 minutes after you hear that little rattle can ball rattle. Now I've already been shaking it for a while. There's the rattle, so we're going to call that pretty good. And we've also got this little bottle of the DuraCoat hardener. Lauer recommends a 12-to-1 ratio of DuraCoat to hardener, and following the advice of YouTube user Iraq Veteran 8888, I found that small syringes are absolutely the best way to do this. The syringes themselves are available at hobby shops, online, farm supply places. Needles are easy to get if you want blunt ones, which is all you need. Electronic supply places and hobby places will have those as well. I happen to have a Sharp here because I have family that's in agriculture, so I was able to grab a handful of those. I hate using Sharps. I don't recommend it. It's what I had available. So I'm going to put on some fresh gloves, and we're going to get this mixed up. Alright, since we're doing a fairly small project today, we only need a tiny amount of DuraCoat. So we're going to tear open a syringe, give it one last quick shake. And I'm figuring about 3 cc's of DuraCoat is all I'm going to need for this project today. So we're just going to dip into the DuraCoat white. I'm using white because I need a base color for the colors I'll be using later. So we've got right on 3 cc's. Cap that back up so we don't spill it. It makes your wife extremely cranky. And we're going to just squirt that right into a little mixing bottle right there. Now, these syringes are cheap, so don't be shy. Use it once and chuck it. The only one you should be reusing is the hardener one, and check it before you use it each time. So we've got 3 cc's of the DuraCoat white. That's closed back up tight. 3 cc's of white means we need 1/4 cc of the hardener. Now that's a little trickier to dispense, seeing as the syringes I have are 3 cc. But we'll figure out how to get it done. And opening that hardener reminded me of one thing. This is an epoxy product. It uses organic solvents, and you need a respirator. Stand by. I'm going to go find mine, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back, and from my voice, I'm sure you can tell that I am now wearing a respirator. Nothing fancy. It's a little half-mask respirator designed for VOCs. You can pick them up at most home stores for about 30 bucks. And it really does make a huge difference in just how much of this stuff you're soaking up. Okay, so we've got just about 1/4 cc of the DuraCoat hardener here. It's a little thick, so it's tough to be precise there. Again, we're going to cap that back up, set it aside. We're going to reopen the DuraCoat in our mix bottle and squirt in the hardener. Make sure it's all out. And any EMT will tell you this, you never recap it sharp. Since I'm still working in my spray booth, I am. Put the cap on the mix bottle. Give that a good shake. 3 cc's isn't much, but it goes a long way. So, that's all mixed up. It's pretty thin stuff when it's mixed. Lauer says you have, I believe, 4 to 6 hours to apply it. It should never take you that long. Since I'm just using a little bit, I've got this little spray cup for my brush. If you're doing a larger amount, you probably want to get a larger color cup, a 3/4 ounce or even a 1 ounce or a 2 ounce if you're doing a whole gun. So we're going to put the whole thing right into that cup, and that can get set aside now. Try not to knock over your color cup with your airbrush. It does upset your wife. Ask me how I know. Now this is just a Badger 350 airbrush. It's a single action brush. You push the button, air comes out, it picks up the paint, and off you go. So we're just going to slip the color cup right into the bottom of the airbrush there. It's going to sit about vertical. Now we're going to go to the bottom of our cardboard, and we're just going to do a couple test runs and see how our coat looks. You can adjust the airbrush finer or thicker depending on what you need. And that's a pretty thick coverage right there. So we're going to start right at the bottom here. Doesn't really matter, bottom or top, use whatever you like. And we're just going to start coating. This should just be very light, quick passes. Now, if you get somewhere you don't want it,
All you need is a rag, a little bit of acetone, it comes right off, or you can use the DuraCoat branded reducer. They both work just fine. I'm going to switch over to the other side here so I can get a little better look at what I'm doing. All you want is a real quick light coat. DuraCoat has a few colors that require the base coat of white. This is going to be one of them in the end. Now things like the sear engagement surfaces, you don't want to coat. Obviously, that's going to be something you'll have to grind down if you do it. Part of the key here is the light, easy strokes, just nice smooth motion. Don't need anything fast, you're not in a race. Take your time, make sure you do this job right. You don't get to go back and do it again. You have to hold it in our hand to do this spray. Trigger assembly, since the only thing that actually matters to me is the part that actually sticks out, the trigger itself, not the sear surfaces. We're just going to pick this up and do a quick coat on our own here. I've got a little bit of color left. So you can see over here, we've got a magazine hanging. We're going to coat that as well. That's the same thing. Smooth, even strokes, and just get her done.